Hi, this is Priyanka Chopra and you're watching Channel Y.
The biggest South Asian media group, Y Media.
Y Media Group, established in 2001, is a media company with a 360-degree approach in reaching our audience over 5 platforms: television, radio, newspaper, online news portal, and mobile app.
Y Media has newspaper, midweek, radio, South Asian pop.
Hi, I'm Amitabh Bachchan and you're listening to South Asian Pulse.
Hi, this is Amir Khan and you're listening to South Asian Pulse.
अब हर दिन सुने GTA का number 1 radio station FM 91.9.
All English 24/7 television network and Y Media Plus.
You are watching Channel Y. Channel Y.
Prime Minister, welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be back.
Online, SouthAsianDaily.com. The biggest South Asian media group, Y Media.
Hello everyone, my name is Yudhir Jaswal. I'm the group editor at Y Media, and today we have a special guest with us, the leader of the official opposition right here in Ontario, NDP leader Marit Stiles. A very warm welcome. How are you?
I'm great, and it's wonderful to be here today.
Same here, and first of all, I would like to ask you, I'm sure you're looking forward to become the premier in 2026. 2026, I know it's a little bit away from now, but what do you think you've done anything different which Premier Doug Ford has done? Pick any 2 things.
Well, I mean, I think first of all, I would have invested more into healthcare. Right? I don't know why the government has waited so long. It's really important. I would have gone a lot faster in some of the reforms and innovations I think we need to have in public healthcare. And I certainly would have been working a lot harder on housing. We need to build more truly affordable housing, and I think that's another thing I would have been moving more quickly on.
Can I get a little bit more specific details on what different you would have done? I know healthcare, with utmost responsibility, I've been using this word, healthcare is in crisis. We all agree on that one.
Yeah, I mean, healthcare is in crisis. Now, I would argue that some of that is a crisis of the government's own making. I think that the government has been chipping away at healthcare for a long time, not making the real investments that were needed. And we're seeing the results of that now. And so the crisis, and let's be clear, for the most part, I'll say Brampton, Peel region is a little different, but the crisis overall across Ontario is a human resource crisis. It's a crisis in not having enough people paid well enough to do the work that we need. Healthcare is about people. But here in Brampton, the failure to act back in, when were the first demonstrations to actually build a new hospital here, right? Back in 2006, I think. It's taken this many years for us to get to this point. Now it's a real crisis, and we're still not seeing the action that we needed. And the government's choosing instead to move in the direction of more private healthcare, which I think is a fundamentally problematic direction to move in. I think it means that we're going to see more and more people paying out of pocket for healthcare that should be available to everybody. And I think it's going to mean as well that more of those nurses and doctors and others that we need in our public hospitals and healthcare system are going to be dragged away, and more of our healthcare dollars are going to go into shareholder pockets instead of into patient care.
And if any of our viewers thought that we're having more family doctors, the numbers clearly indicate we're losing family doctors by every month. This thing I've heard, the last 22 years, how well we would integrate the foreign-trained healthcare professionals.
Yeah.
What's your take on this?
Well, I mean, how long have we been talking about the fact that we have people here in this country, in this province, who are trained, who are ready to go, who came to this country with skills and knowledge and are not being able to put them to work. Now suddenly we have a crisis. So the government says, okay, quick, we're going to start to give them accreditation. I mean, many of those folks, we've wasted so many years. We've wasted so many opportunities. And even still, to this moment, it's taken too long. So I think it's a big tragedy, actually, that we have that, so many people who've been with the skills, with the knowledge to do the important work here that they've never been able to do. And I love to hear the government talking about it now. I want to see some action.
All right. Second thing that you mentioned was housing. What would you do anything different than what Premier Doug Ford is doing?
Well, my concern is that the government talks a lot about the need for housing, and certainly we need housing, but we need affordable housing, right? People in our province, it's not, most people who could afford to live in a big mansion, they've got the money to go buy a big mansion. Our kids are the ones who can't afford those options. They cannot afford to ever even imagine owning a home. We need more truly affordable options for people. And if we're going to attract those people into our country to work here, to take on some of these jobs, we need to provide those affordable alternatives. I'm really concerned that the government's plan to pave over parts of the green belt, which is mostly prime agricultural land we need to feed our families and the future families in this province, that decision isn't going to build housing like we need. It's just going to build a lot more sprawl. And what that means is that folks here in Brampton are going to be paying the bill for that infrastructure that has to be built to service those communities.
But the Premier is claiming we've compensated for those many hectares and we're actually building more green belt.
It is the land that was set aside set aside for a reason. It was researched, it was discussed. It's prime agricultural land, and there's very little of that in this province. And I think people, many of us, myself included, come from experiences in farming backgrounds. Our families, we know, it takes a certain kind of soil to grow certain kinds of food. This is prime agricultural land. There's nothing else like it. If we lose it forever. And there's no replacing it. It's also land that is important to prevent things like flooding, which is becoming an increasing threat to communities across this province, especially with climate change. So I think that the government's making a lot of excuses here, but I always say, look at who's benefiting. The only people that are really benefiting from the selling off of that land are very few, very wealthy developers who've already got good connections with this government. Something smells fishy there. It's not about you or I or most regular Ontarians. It's about the Premier's friends and his family and his donors. And that's not good government, right? We want government that works for real people, for regular people, and addresses the real crisis that we're facing right now, which is a crisis of affordability.
Right, and let's talk a little bit about education as well.
Yeah.
Do you think here is a two-tier system in Ontario because there are people who can afford higher education, there are others who can't? I know there are some Scandinavian countries who are offering free education. So what's your take on that?
I mean, in Ontario, we pay less money as a government into post-secondary education like colleges and universities than any other province in the country. We rely on those universities and colleges to find other ways to fund that. And unfortunately, that often gets passed on to students. It also gets passed on increasingly to international students, right? We're seeing universities and colleges relying more and more on international students. I'm happy to see lots of students coming from all over the world to this country, but we need to make sure they're supported. We need to make sure that they have safe and affordable places to live when they come here. And frankly, none of that is the way to actually fund education. We need to make sure that young people who want to continue in post-secondary education or in the trades or other opportunities are supported as much as possible. I mean, but I will say, I think that one of the big issues for most young people right now is affordability, right? It's not being able to earn enough generally in the jobs that they are offered. It's not enough, you can't earn enough to actually own a home or even rent a place yourself. This is a real barrier and a real burden for a lot of families.
Two consecutive majorities for the Ford government. Do you think you have a real chance of defeating the Ford government in 2026? Why is that?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I do. This government, I think that already a lot of people are disappointed. I think there's a lot of remorse over the last the votes in the last election. I think a lot of people here in the region of Brampton, Peel, are wondering, where is the government on the promises that they made to us? We've seen already broken promises, the failure to move fast enough on things like building the hospital here, providing the additional long-term care and other kinds of care that we need in the communities. And so I think people are disappointed, but it'll be up to me as the leader of the official opposition to hold the government to account, to make sure that we draw some attention and shed some light on those issues, but also to come up with proposals that really connect with people, that reflect the reality of everyday lives. And I think that's, again, where there's a disconnect between what the Doug Ford Conservative government is providing and what people are experiencing in their actual lives. And I always say to people, look at your life today. Is it actually any better than it was 5 years ago? And I guarantee you, most people in this province, it's not. And I don't see it getting better anytime soon. And I think that's how we're going to hold Doug Ford to account. And then, we've got 3 years. We're going to have to win seats, and we're going to have to win seats in every corner of this province.
Yeah, for that, I guess they need to know, because last time, during the federal elections, when I was asked why did the Conservatives last, I said it's not the Conservatives lost, it's the Liberals who won, because Conservatives didn't present an alternate plan at the federal level. Same, I guess, people need what is your plan, because as much as I want to say this, Ontario, GTA, we're the economic engine of this country. Yes. But when was the last time I was built? 1997. When was the last time we had stadiums? And I'm just borrowing this word from Toronto Star. Sweetheart deals are happening here.
Yeah, that's right.
So people are questioning what's going on.
Yeah, I think that, look, any party that wants to form government, including the NDP, we've got to be talking about creating jobs and opportunities, economic opportunities for people in this province. But I believe that those opportunities need to be good ones. I mean, what I see happening right now is, again, very few people are benefiting from this government's decisions. And they tend to be the people who already donate to that party or who are already very wealthy. Very few people. There's a lot of sort of sneaky deals that seem to be happening. Sometimes it's hard to prove, but something doesn't fit right. And I think that is the story of this government. I was talking to some people today at a health center, and they said to me, it feels kind of like old times, like a kind of government from days gone by. We haven't seen this kind of government in a while here, and most people don't like it. We want to know that we all have the same opportunities, that government's working for everyone and not just a few people.
Right, and especially talking about ethnic media, I would say we're called as ethnic media just because we have limited resources. But during the time of pandemic, we were covering almost all federal, provincial, municipal news that we're covering even right now, and we also have to do that not only in English but in other languages as well. So very little support and a lot more of the talk. What do you say?
Yes, I always said, and when I came in today, I said this to you right away, I am so grateful to community media. For the work that happened during the pandemic. I know for a fact many, many people would not have been safe, vaccinated, wouldn't have been able to get good information about what was happening around the world without the work you did. It was critical. I was really disappointed. We pushed very hard to get the government to provide support, recognize the crucial role that ethnocultural media was playing, and they didn't really come up with it. I know the federal government, I think, came up with some funding, but that is, this is an industry that really matters, but like any industry, deserves support in difficult times. And I really am very grateful to local community journalism like this for the work that you did in getting that information out in multiple languages. Public health, the government, everybody took a while to get to that point, but you were doing it from day one. It was absolutely critical to how we fared during the pandemic.
Yeah, my last question is, we have people from both sides of the fences here in Canada, in Ontario, and in GTA as well. So how do we make sure that we integrate them well?
I think that the most important thing that we can do is to provide good social supports in our communities. We have to recognize that, especially, for example, kids coming into our communities need support in school to learn English, to learn, to adjust to a new environment. And that if we give people those supports at the beginning, then there's no question that they're going to succeed and do extremely well. We've seen it over and over again, but we need those supports, those social supports, those community supports. Especially right now, people are still really struggling after the pandemic. You know, people, I hear it all the time, young people struggling with anxiety, mental health issues, seniors struggling with isolation, families still having a hard time making ends meet. These are things government has a role to play. And if we don't deal with those issues at the front end, we're going to deal with them down the road with crises, with people unable to take care of themselves, unable to actually, get the good jobs and contribute to the economy. But it's the role of government to help with that. And I really think that we need to do a whole lot better in this province, and we can. But what's missing is the political will to make it happen.
Yeah, wish we had more time, but anything else you want to say to our audience before we let you go?
Well, it's just a wonderful time to be here. I'm so happy that we have such beautiful sunshine. I hope everybody is enjoying it, and all the festivities too, of course, at this time of year. And I'm really looking forward to coming back again and catching up again on the issues of the day.
Thank you so much for your time, and looking forward to talking.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hope you enjoyed today's discussion. That's all that we have right now. Stay tuned with Y Media.
Hi, this is Priyanka Chopra and you're watching Channel Y.
The biggest South Asian media group, Y Media.
Y Media Group, established in 2001, is a media company with a 360-degree approach in reaching our audience over 5 platforms: television, radio, newspaper, online news portal, and mobile app.
Y Media has newspaper, midweek, radio, South Asian pop.
Hi, I'm Amitabh Bachchan, and you're listening to South Asian Pulse.
Hi, this is Amir Khan, and you're listening to South Asian Pulse.
अब हर दिन सुने GTA का नंबर 1 रेडियो स्टेशन FM 91.9
All English 24/7 television network and Y Media Plus.
You are watching Channel Y. Channel Y.
Prime Minister, welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be back.
Online, SouthAsianDaily.com. The biggest South Asian media group, Y Media.